Before I begin, if you've ever felt lost inside a life that looks perfectly fine from the outside, if you've ever questioned your own heart but were too afraid to say it out loud, then this story is for you. Take a second right now, subscribe to my channel because the stories I share here aren't just stories. They're reflections of us, of love, of mistakes, of second chances. And sometimes they might show you something about yourself that you weren't ready to see. Now, let me tell you what happened. My name is Lauren. I'm 32 years old, and for a long time, I thought I understood what it meant to live. I had a house, a husband, a routine, a calendar filled with responsibilities. From the outside, my life looks stable, predictable, safe. But safety can sometimes feel like silence, and silence, when it stretches too long, starts to feel like disappearing. The truth, I wasn't living, I was existing. Every morning I woke up at 6:15, not 6:10, not 6:20, 6:15. The alarm would ring softly. I would reach for it before it finished the second chime. Michael would stir slightly beside me, then settle again. I would lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, not thinking, not feeling, just staring. There was no dread, but there was no excitement either, just neutrality. And neutrality over time becomes its own kind of emptiness. I'd been married to Michael for 8 years. 8 years is long enough to know someone's habits, the way he folds his shirts, the way he clears his throat before speaking, the way he always double checks that the door is locked. He is steady, gentle, dependable, the kind of man your friends say you're lucky to have. And I was lucky. That's what made everything harder. There was no betrayal, no shouting matches, no slam doors, just distance, the quiet kind. The kind that grows inch by inch until one day you realize you haven't truly looked at each other in months. We still talked, but we didn't connect. We still ate dinner together, but often in silence, the television filling the space where intimacy used to live. Love hadn't exploded, it had evaporated slowly. Sometimes I would catch myself wondering when was the last time I felt chosen? Not needed, not depended on, chosen. There's a difference. Being needed feels practical. Being chosen feels alive. And somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling alive. The night everything shifted started like any other Thursday. I was lying on the couch, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone. Michael was in the kitchen rinsing dishes. A small advertisement appeared on my screen. Friday night dance social, open to couples and singles, no experience required. I almost scrolled past it, but something made me pause. Dance. I used to dance when I was younger, not professionally, not seriously, just freely. Before responsibilities, before routine, before adulthood became heavy. I clicked the post. There were photos, people laughing, moving, smiling in ways that looked unguarded. I felt something unfamiliar stir in my chest. Not attraction, not rebellion, just curiosity. What would it feel like to move again? To sweat for something other than stress? To step into a room where no one knew me as someone's wife? That night at dinner, I mentioned it casually. "There's a dance social happening tomorrow," I said, keeping my voice light. I was thinking about checking it out. Michael looked up immediately. He smiled. "You should," he said. That was it. No hiss and no follow-up questions. No, "I'll come with you," just approval. And for reasons I didn't fully understand, that hurt. I wasn't sure what I wanted. Resistance, jealousy, interest, but his easy encouragement felt like confirmation that I had already drifted somewhere he couldn't see. Friday came. I stood in front of the mirror longer than necessary, not dressing provocatively, just carefully. I told myself it was harmless, it was dancing, nothing more. The studio was warm when I entered, soft Latin rhythms blending with quiet conversation. Strangers everywhere, couples, singles, laughter. For a moment, I almost turned around. I felt awkward, out of place. And then I heard a voice beside me. First time, I turned. Jason. He looked confident without trying, relaxed in his own skin. "Yes," I admitted. He extended his hand. "Well then," he said gently, "you look like you're meant to be on the floor." Something about the way he said it wasn't flirtatious. It was affirming, and I realized I hadn't felt affirmed in years. The first dance was simple. Basic steps, light guidance. He didn't grip, he didn't invade, he led with clarity. And I followed. And as we moved, something inside me unlocked. Not desire, not yet, just presence. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about tomorrow. I wasn't replaying yesterday. I was just there, feet onward, music in my chest, breath syncing with rhythm, alive. I went home glowing. Michael noticed. "You seem happy," he said. "I am," I replied, and I was. But happiness can be complicated when it feels borrowed. One Friday became two, then three, then every week. Jason and I danced often, but not exclusively. The environment felt safe, social, yet conversations started stretching longer. He walked me to my car. We talked about dreams, about stagnation, about the quiet fears people don't admit in stable marriages. "How do you know," he once asked gently, "if you're settling?" The word echoed in me. Settling? Was I, or was I just bored? Or was boredom simply a disguise for something deeper? Our messages began during the week. Nothing explicit, just thoughtful. He told me I had depth, that I shouldn't shrink into routine, that I deserved passion. Passion. The word felt dangerous because passion isn't stable. Passion burns, and I had been living in something far cooler. The night everything almost crossed the line. The room had emptied early, the music played softly in the background, lights dimmed. We were alone near the mirrored wall. He pulled me closer during the slow turn, closer than usual. My breath caught, my mind split in two. One voice whispered, "You deserve to feel wanted." The other whispered, "You are about to lose everything." He looked at me, not playful anymore, serious, present. "You don't have to go back to something that feels empty," he said quietly. And in that moment, I didn't think about vows. I didn't think about morality. I thought about how intoxicating it felt to be seen. He leaned closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his breath. And suddenly, I saw Michael's face in my mind. Not angry, not suspicious, just trusting. And something inside me shattered, because I realized the betrayal had already happened. Not physically, emotionally, in my longing, in my secrecy, in the parts of myself I had shared with someone else, while withholding them from my husband. I stepped back, hands trembling. "I can't," I whispered. Jason sighed softly. "You're choosing comfort," he said. "No, I am choosing honesty, even if it was late." I drove home in silence, guilt heavy in my chest. Michael was asleep on the couch when I entered. The television glowed softly. Dinner sat untouched on the table. He must have waited for me. That sight broke something open inside me. He looked peaceful, safe, and I had nearly traded that safety for a moment of validation. I sat beside him and cried silently. Not because I almost kissed another man, but because I realized how close I had come to destroying something good just to escape something uncomfortable. The next morning, I deleted Jason's number, blocked it, never returned to the studio. Michael noticed my quietness. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. And for the first time in years, I told the truth. "I feel lost," I said. Not about Jason, about me, about us, about the emptiness I didn't know how to fix. He didn't interrogate, he didn't accuse, he just pulled me close. "We'll figure it out," he said. "Together." That word hit differently. Together. The work that followed wasn't dramatic. No grand gestures, no cinematic reconciliations. It was uncomfortable conversations, admitting we had both drifted, acknowledging unmet needs, planning small adventures, talking without screens between us, choosing each other intentionally. Love stopped being automatic. It became active. And strangely, that felt more passionate than any dance ever could. 2 years have passed. Michael and I still argue about small things. We still burn dinner sometimes. We still get tired, but we show up. And that's the difference. Jason once told me I didn't have to return to a life that didn't make me happy. He was wrong. You don't run from unhappiness. You confront it. You rebuild. You choose again. Trying something new didn't fix my life. It revealed it. It exposed the cracks I had been ignoring, and it forced me to decide who I wanted to be, the woman who chases validation or the woman who fights for what she already has. Sometimes transformation isn't about leaving, It's about staying, fully intentionally, bravely. If I could speak to the version of myself who walked into that studio for the first time, I would tell her this: you are not empty, you are unheard, you are not unloved, you are disconnected. And attention is not the same thing as worth. Worth is built quietly, in forgiveness, in effort, in choosing each other when it's easier not to. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever stood on the edge of a decision that could change everything, remember this: temptation doesn't always come disguised as destruction. Sometimes it looks like joy. Sometimes it feels like awakening. But not everything that wakes you up is meant to stay. Real love isn't always thrilling. Sometimes it's intentional, and maybe that's the bravest kind of love there is. Subscribe for more stories like this, because sometimes the hardest truths are the ones that save us.